Welcome everybody to episode 4 of World's Worst Podcast. We have here me, Dan, Patrick, and Brian. And
What's up, guys?
Just wanted to say hi to everybody. Welcome back. If you're watching again, thank you. Make sure you subscribe and like to the page. Again, we always appreciate it. You might get the shout out if you watch episode 2. We give a shout out probably in episode 3 and probably every episode we do. So, how's everybody's week been? What have you guys been up to?
It's pretty good. I've been working. I had some issues with my car.
Okay.
Basically, there's like a pipe in the car that was like all rusted out and shit, and it just completely broke. And
Just
it was,
like a random pipe?
Yeah, basically it's like a coolant pipe. So like there's like hot coolant like shooting out of it and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I had to go to a
Sounds
junkyard.
dangerous.
It's so dramatic.
Yeah, I know, right?
So
But like I found my part, I fixed it up. It's pretty good.
You've been doing a lot more auto stuff recently, right? Like working on the car more instead of taking it to mechanic. I mean, it's such a hassle to take it to mechanic, and it always costs an arm and leg. The labor charges alone are just ridiculous.
Yeah, but the problem is that.
Well, what I don't like about it.
Oh, go ahead.
Good.
Fine.
What I
Couple
like
nice
about
guys.
it
Damn it!
Is that I go to the mechanic, and like I just feel like I have no idea what's going on. They could literally tell me anything, and I believe it because they're the smart guys, you know, as far as cars go. But I bought basically a complete piece of shit car, and things have been slowly breaking on it. And as they've been breaking, I've just been going in and fixing them. And like it's the best way to learn because you really don't have a choice. You gotta like figure out how to get it to work again.
I think cars are just one of those things that they're incredibly intricate and they require time to fix correctly, and they also put your life at risk if you don't. Right? If things go wrong, depending the part that you replace. I think that's why people are so leery of. Not that they're incapable of teaching themselves, it's like a time effort and a comfort level.
Well,
it's definitely a comfort level.
For sure, but it's also like it's a hobby. So it's like people who like to play music. There's people who like to ride snowboards. There's people that like to work on cars, and it's just something that they get into and then that they love.
Like Phil.
But yeah, I definitely think it's a lot harder now for people to work on cars. Actually, I mean they're easy in a sense, but they're harder compared to back in the day. There was no electronics really to a car. It was like, here's this tube, here's this part, bolted in, you're done. Now it's like, there's 12 computers, to run my one windshield wiper at different speeds. That's why it's so hard to actually do anything yourself these days with a car, and why people have to pay like $1 million and go into the dealership. I mean. No way. I don't know. Unless you have a warranty with the company, I don't see the people that do that.
Where we are with technology right now, too, I think like it's interesting that the cars that we have right now may be some of the most complex cars we ever see. Because if you look at the Teslas that are coming out, they're super simple. There's like nothing to them. It's a battery and like all of the internal combustion engine stuff that is in standard cars is not necessary on these electric cars. So I just think that like they're trying to retrofit these new features into basically what is a super old machine, and the electric cars will come along and it'll basically just be like an app with wheels.
Yeah, I mean, I would love electric cars to become a big thing. The problem is that there are no charging stations, or there's a few and far between. Like, if you're actually traveling somewhere far from your house, there's no like gas station, but for electric, there's no infrastructure for it yet. But honestly, think about how many jobs they would create if they were just building these from East Coast to West Coast. You know what I mean? Just all the way across America, they're building these electric stations now. Create tons of jobs, and then everyone could buy these cars, get some kind of grant or funding from the government if you actually do buy one versus a gasoline car, and kind of just go from there. I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, they said we're running out of fossil fuel, and people just don't believe it. So who knows? So
I don't think the economy in America is not a state where everyone's going to go out and buy a new car. Period. People aren't going to get. No. Everyone's not going to go get. That's not their priority right now. So one, the demand of people that's going to be buying an electric car isn't there. Two, to create the infrastructure that only serves one specific purpose. Like, we better be using electric cars for a very long time, and I don't think that we will, because we talked about this a little bit before. I think automatized cars, in some way or form, whether they continue to run off gas or how they end up going that route, I think that'll be the transition first before you start getting into electric cars. I think you're gonna build up and make the current form of driving cleaner and more simple, and then I think you're gonna go in the alternative energy route. That's my way.
I don't know. I feel like people would be more leery to let this computer just drive them places. But like, why would I trust this thing to drive me in rush hour? Like, this thing might kill me. Compared to just, if I get a big discount or money back in my tax return, per se, for buying this electric car. And then there's places, I mean, a gas station is literally only used to fill a car. You know, what else would you do with it? Its electric station is the same concept as the gas station. It's just if there was enough people to actually do
pumps.
It. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
it's an electric pump or a parking space or something.
I mean, exactly. Or even adding electric pumps to old gas stations, how there's like diesel and there's regular gas. You could have an actual pump, but have it at like multiple stations in different areas. You got to expand it.
I mean,
there's no reason to, unless I'm at my house.
But I think
I'm not going to drive the thing, really.
The concept of people being leery is always going to be present with new technology, right? People are leery of airplanes. People are leery of their fucking email. People are leery of phones. Yeah. They're always leery of it. No one got in the first train and was like, "This is going to be the safest experience of my life." But like, every form of new technology proves that to be the safer, more reliable route. So I think people would quickly get over whatever fears that they had, because the statistics are there. The problem is that the statistics are based off a very small sample size from Google, which is probably going to be engineering the best cars, and they're not a car company, so they're not going to be pushing it out there for the masses. So the trick will be if companies like Honda and Toyota and all those bigger car manufacturers actually, what route they end up going. Do they go the route of refining the gasoline-based cars, or do they go the route of picking up the electric car? It's up to them to back what ultimately gets developed. People are going to buy what's available. That's the thing. If electric cars become the mainstream, people are going to buy electric cars. If automatized cars become the mainstream, that's ultimately what's going to end up happening. So it'll be interesting to watch.
I'm going to touch back on a point that both you made. I mean, Brian, you made a mention that cost effective. How cost is it effective for people to buy these? I definitely think, like PJ said, it's going to be, these cars are being made more simpler. There's not as much to them per se. Like, maybe the cost, I feel, for an automated car to drive you around is going to be much more expensive than just going out and buying an electric car. I mean, I definitely think it would be cooler to have a car that drove me around, but I definitely think it's going to cost less for me to buy an electric car versus buying this type of car.
I could see taxis.
Yes, that would be cool.
What if it's just an install though into an existing car? Like, what if the technology to automate?
There's going to be a lot of fear with that.
No, I mean, I agree.
I think there's going to be a lot of people scared of stuff like that, and I think that electric cars will take on before self-driving cars because it's at least a more comfortable experience. There's still pedals. I still hold the wheel here. My radio is still over here. When you remove the steering column and people just think that they're on like a roller coaster ride, there's
just
going to
think
be a
of it
lot
as cruise control.
That just won't do
it.
Ever
use cruise control?
It's just like cruise
it's
control.
Awkward. It's nice, but cruise control is also awkward because you don't have control over the gas and brake. It's like you feel like you kind of have to always have your foot ready on the brake. Because, it's like you're going, but then you're like, I don't know. Like, I don't really ever use cruise control for that reason unless I'm going, like, on a super far trip, maybe, and I just want to relax. But even then, I would still rather be in control of the car.
I mean, I guess, but
I have,
I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced that, as a country, what's in the car itself is not going to be cost-effective. I think I don't know the appropriate word, but creating the infrastructure for electric cars is going to be incredibly expensive. And I don't know what's the long-term benefit. Are we going to be using electric cars for 80, 70, 90, 100, or I don't go back in time, but 80, 90, 100 years? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. I just also think that there'll still be stopgap methods, like if you a lot of people will have them in their garages. The Teslas are set up like that right now, where you just plug into your wall and then you charge it at night. If they can increase the range on that, then it's not even really important, the gas stations. You can have so many locations, and then odds are wherever you park at the end of the night, you can just plug your shit in like you do your cell phone.
Yeah, I think it would be pretty cool if they if they use the old like telephone poles and they added something to that could generate electricity, or the roads like they were doing. What was that like in Japan? They were doing the roads, and when you actually like drive over it, it actually charges the car up. Like Korea. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, Korea. That's right. Yeah.
I have a cousin who's got a Mercedes-Benz, like one of the new ones.
Okay. And it, like makes coffee for you.
Yeah, basically, they're super fucking elaborate. So basically, it's got like adaptive cruise control where you set it, but it'll keep a certain following distance, and it can stop for you, and it monitors the lanes and stuff like that. So
yeah,
you can
really
basically
cool.
get on the highway. I
always wanted to try that.
Yeah, you can basically get on the highway, press 3 buttons, and then just turn it off when you get to your exit and leave.
That's what I want, man.
Which is really cool.
I literally, I would be nervous too, but I feel like. I don't know. I feel like it's worth the risk. I'm so lazy of an individual that I'd be like, strap me in. Let's go. Like I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care. I mean, you'd have to be.
Yeah, I mean, you could read a book.
I think initially I would just do it on like 35 mile per hour or less roads, right? Because worst case scenario, if you do get into an accident, if it's a head-on collision, you should be able to have some form of control to prevent that, which is really the only way you're gonna die at 35 miles per hour. Unless it's some sort of weird, like you drive into a tree or something. But then again, you should still have the awareness. I still think driving is going to be an experience that people should be aware of. You should still be focused on your surroundings. Just like think of like a pilot. Those things are on like auto nav. They're still not like on their iPhone though. They're still focused on getting to the destination. I don't think you should ever go into any situation where you're at risk, regardless if it's driving or doing whatever, and be careless. I don't think automatized driving is a free pass to stop caring and hope you don't die. I think that's.
I think it'll happen at some point. I don't think it's anytime soon, but I think at some point it'll be like that because it's just you people learn to have faith in the technology, and then they don't worry so much. If 2 people die in car accidents versus you just say to yourself, the odds are this is not going to happen this way, so I don't need to think about it right now.
It's the whole risk factor. Once risks come down and are proven that they aren't real, then people relax. And there will always be some people that are more tense, but for the most part, I think.
I mean, speaking of new technologies and risks, things like that, how do you guys feel about the whole Apple Pay and having all of your money basically on your phone, and there's no use for credit cards or debit cards. You don't carry cash anymore. It's it's just, hey, I want to buy this. Boom, you hit the button on your phone. That's it.
I think plastic's gotten it's a really antiquated process. I like the idea of transitioning to cell phones to make payments so long as there's proper security in place.
Absolutely.
But I don't. This is one of those things where when Apple does a proprietary system, I think it does more harm than good. I think that something like Google Wallet, if it was adapted properly, would be better off because then you could use it on any platform. Or if I get a new phone, I just, switch it up regardless of what platform you're on.
So there's two.
The crazy thing is Apple has like over 500 banks that have signed on to use it, and they have a lot more coming. They have tons of companies that have signed on to use the actual app and accept the payments from the app. I mean, they have a lot of following actually regarding this. There's a lot. I guess a lot of people think that like digital currency is the future. I mean, who really wants to carry around things? It's just more to have in your pocket. It's more to lose. It's more, for whatever. It's just easier to have like, oh, I have this many cents or whatever. Everything should be digital. It's the future.
So there's a couple of reasons why it's good. One, it's good because think of it now. If you get mugged and you used to have your money on you, you lost everything. If you get mugged now, you think you're going to get through your passcode, through your Apple account, and then probably through your bank account password. Like your modern day mugger, your thieves nowadays are hackers, right? They're not physical people. When it comes down to financials,
it's white collar crime versus blue collar crime.
Right. The thing that needs to be accepted is there's going to be 2 layers of responsibility. There's going to be, or 3 really. There's going to be the layer of protection that Apple or whoever the funds carrier is, like if you're servicing, all the money through Apple Wallet, or I don't know what it's called. You need to have a layer of protection there, and they need to be fully aware of the risk of having that kind of information. The other, hold on, let me finish. The other thing is the vendors, all electronic vendors need to get smarter as well. People like Target and things like that, and banks also all need to get. I don't know why you're laughing, because all three.
I'm just laughing because he's laughing.
All three of those institutions need to get better about cybersecurity. I think a lot of people are going to be quick to blame Apple if something goes wrong. So if something gets exposed on Apple's end, it's not entirely Apple's fault, because Apple is only going to have the account information that's the funds are being taken from. That's only one piece of the puzzle. That only gets you to the institution that then is actually holding the money. And they have to have a layer of protection too. And I worry about some of those smaller banks. I mean, being in a technology side in a banking world, there's constant threats all the time.
Of course.
And being from a larger bank, we have the money and the infrastructure to support, appropriate layers of protection. But like your local family bank, are they going to have that same kind of security? Probably not. And if Apple exposes your account number,
well, the thing what Apple is doing is that they also said is that they're encrypting basically all the phones. So if like you lock yourself out of your phone, anything like that, Apple won't be able to get you back into your phone. So what they're saying, basically I saw this interview and the guy was saying that, this is a good thing in the sense that, no one can really ever take your phone because no one can really ever unlock it besides you with the new touch IDs, passwords, things like that are being needed, and they said the problem is that, in regards, he was talking more like criminals, so they now have these encrypted phones. They can't unlock the phones. They can't access the phones basically unless you upload to the cloud. So if you're on the cloud, then they can access your phone in a sense. So whoever doesn't upload to the cloud, if the phone's encrypted, they can't do anything with it. I thought that was interesting because I don't upload anything to the cloud. I just don't.
It's not the same. Their encryption can't be broken.
No, I'm sure. I mean, but the everyday person isn't going to be, pumping stuff out. If
somebody's encryption is going to be broken, it's probably not Apple's. Apple's encryption, out of all the encryptions,
I mean, they just had it.
They've got probably the best security personnel out there right now. They can afford to. Do you have any idea how valuable that company is? They can really afford the security. If anybody can afford it, it's them.
I'm not saying they can afford it.
Over the NSA.
I wouldn't. No.
Shit's ridiculous.
No. I would say definitely
close.
Definitely front runners of vendor protection, like self-protection. Google, Facebook, Amazon. All those companies outshine Apple. They all have a way larger customer base.
No, not outshine. I would not say outshine. No, I would say, if anything, they were on equal basis.
That's
equal,
not just,
but nothing
it's not
else.
factual. Amazon has 20...
What are you considering?
They're called white hats, I think, or white suits. Amazon has 20 people that were convicted federal criminals for high-level, high-profile hacking. And the way that they're repaying their debts is by working for Amazon. They're on their payroll, but all they do is try and hack Amazon's infrastructure every single day. They have 20 of the world's best hackers or so on their payroll to constantly prevent. Amazon is one of the largest, only online-based companies for vendor goods. It's not to say that they're more reputable or more profound than Apple but I think their customer base is certainly larger because they're not just a one-stop shop. Apple offers Apple products. Amazon offers everything. It has Apple products, headsets. It has food, for shit's sake. So you can get everything on Amazon. Everybody's got Amazon linked to their TV and everything else. I wouldn't say that Apple is the premier company in
maybe not the premier.
Security.
That's probably an overstep. But their encryption is not something to have concern about. I don't think. I think the money that they can afford to pay their programmers to make sure their encryption is up to shape, I think supersedes most businesses.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I'm not trying to say that Apple's is not good, but they're certainly not the best. Being number one. But maybe they haven't had a reason to be. So that's the thing, though. They haven't had a real reason to be. So it'll be interesting to see once they go to this transition. It seems like they're already taking it seriously.
I mean, the only time Apple's really ever been hacked is when people hack the cloud because they're, putting in stupid passwords like 1, 2, 3, things like that.
There's nothing you can do about that. That's
exactly.
That's not hacking. That's not hacking. That's just phishing.
Right. you can't stop social engineering. That's
we
all.
Apologize for
offending
you if that's the case.
It's not a matter of offending me. You'd be offending Apple because Apple is not getting hacked. They're just people.
You're offending hackers, is what you're doing.
You're offending hackers and you're offending Apple because it really was one of those things where people just have bad password protection. That's the other thing too. Your consumer of your product is also stupid, and you made them stupid, Apple. You want all of your consumers to be stupid because that's how you make all your products. So that puts even more pressure.
That the people are stupid. They just have been comforted by the ease that Apple puts in. Here's an issue though that covers all of it that I think is the biggest problem. The way the payments work now is they're all pulled payments. So if you've got any sort of ACH debits or any debit card payments or anything like that, the retailer pulls the payment from your bank account, which is the real security issue, because when they go in and they pull whatever they want.
Exactly.
The system can work a different way where you have a bank account and you push payments out to retailers. They give you an invoice and then you send them the proper amount of digital funds.
Yeah.
And that avoids all of the security issues because Amazon doesn't have anything that you didn't give them.
I think the problem is what that's going to be is people that you're going to have fraud from a consumer perspective, meaning they could go out and purchase a bunch of goods and then shut down the accounts before their payments are sent out. If that merchant doesn't have the ability to pull, which is what they do now. Nowadays, if you say make a bunch of payments, you get a bunch of like $1 holds, let's say, on your card, and then you close the card or you close the account, that merchant still has the authorization to pull the funds. So if your account's closed, they're still going to come to the bank and say, well, this money's owed to us and we're going to pull it. And then the bank is in a position where they can, most banks have the ability to pull from other accounts. Like say you moved all your money to another account in the bank, they can just take that money.
Yeah.
If you remove the merchant's ability and give all the rights to the consumer, I mean, I'm a consumer, right? I should want to have all the rights, but there's definitely people that are going to abuse that benefit.
See, the difference with Apple Pay is that you are physically uploading money to your Apple Wallet, let's just say, or your Apple Pay, and then as soon as you say, I want to buy this, and you hit purchase, it takes it directly from there. So there's no, going back to your bank account. You've already taken the money from your bank account, put it in this other, website or app, whatever it is, that holds your money, and then the money is directly taken right from that. There's no $1 holding, anything like that. It might have a $1 holding, say maybe on your Apple Pay, but I don't think so. Basically, they're setting up vendors, so you have to actually, sign up for it, and they're probably going to have a system working, so the money just takes instantly. There is no 3-day grace period, things like that.
You know what I would do? Yeah. Honestly, as somebody who's pretty aware of cyber threats and fraud and things like that, I would have a separate account that's tied to my Apple Wallet, and I would move money from my main account into the separate account. Because what it sounds like to Dan is you load the money in the Apple account, so there's going to be some record of that original account, but they wouldn't have any record of the other account that's funneling the money into it, which is where, say, your main money is at. So even if I could, set up a, maybe my Apple account's only for Play Money, then I set aside $400 a month for Play Money or whatever. You can just get your payroll split between the two accounts and then have that account automatically sending the money to your Apple account. So then that way, even if your account was compromised, all the money is already on the Apple. They only get a piece of it. They only get the money that you've already...
So it's only what you put in there.
Right.
That would be the way...
So like you said, you can have it as your Play Money and then have your other account as your main account for, say, your bills, whatever. Go, okay, and with this paycheck, I have $200 to spend on whatever I want. You put it in your Apple Wallet, boom, you have this $200. The money's taken instantly when you buy things. Once that money's gone, that money's gone. It's never going back and touching your bill money, things like that.
The thing is,
who doesn't have their phone on them at all times nowadays?
That's a foolproof way of protecting your stuff. The problem is people aren't going to do that. Just flat out. Majority of people are going to take the laziest approach to doing it, which is fine. Like I said, I don't think there's going to be some sort of epidemic. I just think everyone needs to be fully prepared before this transition happens. Everyone being the people that are providing the service. The consumers should not have to go. I'm going to personally do it initially, just because I like the convenience of it, but I would be a little bit leery of having all of my money tied in through not my bank, right? Because now you're allowing some other vendor to have direct knowledge of where your money is being housed. Because if those account numbers,
it's not like you can deposit your paycheck into it. You still need a bank account to put money back and forth.
No, I get that. But if their account list ever gets compromised, again, they still have to go through the bank security. Apple could hand feed them a piece of the puzzle, the main piece of the puzzle. If you got the account number, now you just need to figure out, which ways to exploit it from there, depending on the institution. That's all I'm saying. Because larger banks won't necessarily have the problem, but smaller banks could very easily probably get themselves in a pretty bad position with something like that. But they have to sign up for it with Apple, right? That's what it sounds like.
I just think with Apple doing it and it first coming out, they're definitely going to have, like you just said, like the top of their security guys definitely watching that at absolute all times, especially because this is something that they're going to be trying to push real hard. And if it works, I mean, their business will never go anywhere. They invented basically the future of paying. You know what I mean? They're definitely going to have the top security.
Well, you got to keep in mind other banks are also doing it internally. TD, for example, is piloting a thing where they're working with vendors for electronic payments, so you wouldn't be using the middlemen of Apple.
I think.
The problem is that
I think like Bank of America.
The problem is that TD and other banks. Oh, Bank of America would. I think the problem is that TD is they wouldn't have the reach that would be appropriate. So if I wanted to go out of the footprint, I would imagine the vendors aren't going to be supporting it. Which is Apple's going to have much more people. And it does sound like, the merchants have to sign up for it, so the merchants are accepting the risk associated with it. But Apple certainly, they're putting a target on themselves. They're putting a target, boom. Because let's face it, Facebook had a target, and what are you really getting from Facebook? People's pictures, maybe some information about their personal life? Yeah. And people still put a shit ton of effort into getting into Facebook, man. Like a shit ton. So it'll be really, really interesting.
I mean, but just think about it. Who doesn't already store their credit card numbers on, one of the apps on their phone as is? If someone were to hack my phone today, he could probably get one of my credit card numbers or my bank. I mean, my bank account app is on here. If they found some way to trace that, they could go in through that. I mean, and it's possible right now. It's just like you said. I mean, it'd definitely be more of a target once that does come out, because of course everybody's going to be one of doing it, and it might happen, but I don't think there's going to be like a major breakdown where it's like, oh my god, we made this and now everybody's money's gone type of thing. I think it might be cases here and there where there might be like computer issues, things like that. But I don't think
like credit card theft.
I don't want to get
exactly.
I don't want to get too far into it, but I'm just going to touch on one other small point. Another thing to keep in mind is a lot of major people out there, a lot of major players, companies like Sony, a lot of companies that run their business solely online are getting targeted by DDoSing. And just to be really brief about what DDoSing is not hacking. It is simply exploiting the server infrastructure and the ISPs that funnel and provide service to that vendor, and you bring it down. You flood it so much that you prevent any sort of servicing from it. So even if they're not compromising Apple, I mean, if everyone puts their hopefully people don't. That's the problem with digital currency, right? Is you rely on the service being available, and if for whatever reason your phone can't connect to your iWallet and you have no cash on you, you put yourself in an awkward situation.
Well, I don't think I would ever put myself in a situation where I'm like, I'm just not going to bring my debit card or like some kind of money with me anywhere. I mean, my phone used to die like 100 times a day. There's no way I would trust my entire bank account just to be like on my phone.
Just battery life alone.
Oh shit, I'm on a trip. Exactly.
So what's the advantage then? Why have it?
It's convenience. It's just all convenience.
Why is it working?
Because I have my phone in my hand and my wallet is in my pocket.
Exactly.
It's just plastic is antiquated. It's completely unnecessary. Well, I don't need to make this out to be like a necessary thing, but it's.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like your license.
I feel like it's the same level of
It's not like your license isn't there.
If you're pulling your phone out of your pocket and then pulling up an app for it to be scanned or whatever, how is that any different than pulling your wallet out and slipping a card out?
You don't have to worry about the magnet rubbing off. Or I'm not saying it's a necessity, but it's the next logical step. What's the need for
but I'm saying if you're going to take
128 gigabyte hard drive on your cell phone? What's the need for that?
No, my argument is if you're still bringing the credit card around. I think the problem is right now is credit cards have if you lose your credit card, you have to immediately close it, or you're liable to lose money,
Yeah.
right? There's a huge there's not,
Yeah.
it's not the debit cards are not perfect. They're not perfect at all. There's debit card fraud all the freaking time. That's why there's all sorts of things in place. But what's the benefit of if you're not comfortable enough to walk around without your debit card? Is this the time that we start implementing this, or do we need 10 years?
There's always going to be this time, though. And the same with the electric cars. There's always going to be this stopgap period where people have to do stuff that kind of seems stupid and unnecessary, you know?
Look at Google Glass. Look at the iWatch. I mean, all of these things aren't really... I think it did for now. I think it will come back in a few years when they get the technology down better and when it's more accepted. I mean, there's...
Is it
did
out?
they even release it? I don't think they fully released it to the public.
I don't think it's official.
They just did they did a beta version. Well, they did the developer version, and then they did a beta version for one day only. I forget how much it cost. It was like $500, I think, or something. Remember we were talking about it, or $1,000.
Yeah, it was a bunch.
And you could buy it, but that was literally one day. So they haven't actually fully released the product yet. I think that's really interesting. I would definitely be interested in owning a pair of Google Glass. I mean, I wear glasses most of the time, so it's like.
See, that's different. I don't wear glasses, so I would never. Yeah. It seems so stupid if you don't have glasses. But if I can work it into the glasses frame, that seems great.
Exactly.
I think it's impractical.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool.
It sounds cool. That's my take on it. I don't want to get too in-depth in the Google Glass.
Yeah.
That's my take. I think it's conceptually, these are all great ideas. Conceptually. And I think...
Right.
The direction where they're heading, it'll cascade into something great. And like Pete just said, you have to do the stupid shit to get to the good stuff. And eventually we'll get there.
Exactly.
But that's a lot of technology talk. What else is going on? That's a lot. That was good. That was good talk though. I like those talks, but I don't want to get have a 15 minutes.
Maybe there's people that don't like technology.
This is turning into
true. Let's talk about the ocean again, because I saw 2 stories today that were pretty cool.
The ocean.
So the first thing I saw was that a man in California found a message in a bottle. So, you think message in a bottle, you see in the movies, the song.
You need a bottle.
Yeah, exactly. But he found it, and he got the cork off, and when he opened it, it was broken into pieces because the letter was old, and he put it back together, and he found out that the letter was actually 4 years old, and it was written by a girl in Hawaii who was inviting the recipient, whoever found the bottle, to her birthday party in 2010. So this guy just found the bottle, but it went from Hawaii to California. So if you think about it, that's not terribly far. But in a 4-year span, like, where could this bottle have possibly gone? Did it go on a semi-straight path? Or did it actually travel around in the Pacific before actually hitting the coast of California?
It could have got stuck against a branch for 5 months, and then the branch got taken away from a tide.
Yeah.
The bottle went its way. God, I mean, maybe we should have filmed the bottle. Follow the journey of the bottle.
I was actually thinking, how cool would it be to track a bottle? Like, actually, to do something like that, but to actually put a tracker in it and just see where it goes.
Wouldn't be hard. Just put a chip in it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think.
And just track where it goes after years.
I knew a couple guys who went to Peru, like they were going to go hiking in Peru, and they had like a thing that they brought with them that was like a little GPS box that basically like you could go online and check on where they were, like just in case they get lost or if nobody hears from them for a while.
That's cool. That's really cool. Especially in like a foreign country.
If you wanted to.
It's really bad if ISIS gets their hands on it though, because you're giving them some free information, but if ISIS doesn't get their hands on it, it's a really cool tool.
ISIS.
Wait, how does it work with ISIS? How would that help?
Why is ISIS using?
I just like the name ISIS.
Here, sir, hold this and don't get rid of it.
I think it is for me. Is ISIS sounds not like a Middle East radical group to me. They just sound like a really secret spy agency. I just picture like ninjas and shit.
They do.
I think I could have sworn. What is Archer's spy thing called? Isn't it ISIS?
ISIS is an Egyptian term.
But I'm almost positive in the show Archer, their agency is called ISIS, which is why I keep drawing the connection. But I just picture like ISIS just being like super sophisticated terrorists in like suits and like watches that shoot rockets off.
Unfortunately, they're a lot different, Brian. They're not as friendly and TV like.
I know, but it's really it's way more enjoyable to think about it that way.
It's true.
Isis is an Egyptian goddess. It says here the Isis is an Egyptian goddess that
is it
she's got wings sometimes, like big bird wings.
Okay. Interesting.
So I don't really know how that ties into the actual ISIS. Is that an acronym or is that like just the name? Do you know?
Islamic.
It's an acronym.
I got nothing.
Oh, okay, so never mind.
I was gonna try and make
it. It's not together. Yeah, let's not do that. So the other thing about the ocean, so the other thing about the ocean today was that in Greece, they had found a ship basically that was 2,000 years old, and they had pulled a few things off of it beforehand, but they had just recently went back and they were actually looking at there's bronze rings and things like this that are 2,000 years old and they're still intact. So they're thinking that the part of the boat might still be intact underneath. They're going to try and get it, but they brought up an old spear. So I was thinking, is there ever going to be a point now where everything is literally technology based? You usually always know where everything is, besides Malaysia. Sorry about the airlines. But where everything is. But is there ever going to be a point where we basically find everything cool in the ocean? Or do you think we'll always just be finding things that'll be cool? And then I was thinking about how I saw an article a while ago. I forget exactly where it was, but there was a whole town that was literally buried in the Middle East by sand for like 1,000 years, a couple thousand years, whatever it was. But eventually the wind brought back the town. Like the town got covered by sand, it disappeared, and then it came back. So it's crazy how long we've actually been here and how many things we still discover, even though we've been here for so long. You'd think we would kind of know everything, but we don't, because it's really technology has really only been prevalent like that, for what? Not even 100 years,
or period of time. Yeah,
exactly.
It's been technology's been practical in a global sense for like 30 years max.
That's what I mean.
It's really young.
Just think of it. We were born technically before the internet became the internet. The World Wide Web was actually something that you logged onto. I mean, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not that old, and it's crazy to think about how there's still so many things. I mean, like I said, under the sand or in the ocean that we're still finding, and it's and then we usually end up finding out that they had better technology than we originally thought they had. And it's weird to me. It's like, how does all of them just disappear? And someone's like, oh yeah, that boat sunk out there. It's just
erosion. The Earth always
wins.
The Earth always wins. Whatever society you're in,
there's groups of people that just kind of always just disappear too. Like groups of people will disappear, then different types of people will appear on Earth. You know what I mean? It's just weird how that happens like that.
Yeah, Atlantis.
Not to segue.
Do you guys believe in Atlantis?
Yeah, I gotta.
I think that's a really cool concept.
I gotta say this really fast.
What's that face? What was that face?
It's gonna drive me crazy.
Go ahead.
So the show was ISIS. Archer did have their thing as ISIS, and for the new season they're changing it because of the radical group. They're coming up with a new name. But that's where I was getting it from.
Interesting.
And I kept associating it with the
fucking
show.
Was it coincidence?
That's crazy. They've been around for like 5 years, the show, and they're like, okay, well since this group's gotten huge now, we're not going to be ISIS anymore in the show. I had to fit that back in because it was driving me crazy. I looked it up 5 days ago. They announced that they were changing it.
That's okay.
That's weird.
But Atlantis. That's where we were.
Oh, Atlantis.
I think the whole concept is interesting. I mean, how much of Atlantis do you believe? Because apparently the story is they were beyond advanced. I've read that they apparently had airplanes or a form of an airplane. They had electricity. They had things like this, and apparently the whole island collapsed upon itself and sunk.
Yeah. I'm gonna take it a whole different route.
I don't know about that.
I'm gonna take it a whole different route.
There may have been. Oh. Good.
Want me to go? I'm gonna take it a crazy route and just go all conspiracy theory. I think eventually technology is gonna build up, and there's gonna be some sort of global destruction of sense, and that we all break down, and history repeats itself. The cycle of almost de-evolution.
Okay, so Atlantis was basically, let's just say, is our future. It already existed at one point, and you're saying that it now disappeared, and then now we're the new Atlantis per se, and that eventually we're going to get so big that we eventually disappear, and then there'll be new, nomad type people that learn to walk on Earth and build fire and start over again.
I wouldn't say genetically, like I don't know if maybe as a race of humans, fundamentally we change physically. I don't think we're gonna go back to being the Neanderthals, but I think information loss is a very real thing. The Dark Ages are an already historical example of when civilization was building up to a point, and then the Dark Ages happened, and it dipped, and then it stagnated, and then it went back up, because the Greeks were already at geometry, which is the step before you understand the fundamentals of calculus, prior to the Dark Ages. And then we didn't get back to that level of math again until like the 1700s. Like we lost like I think it's like 400 to 500 years advancement.
Yeah, it's just completely dark.
Due to
that's crazy just to think about.
Just due to information loss. Now it's different now because again this is all going off factual history that we know. People didn't, not everyone read, not everyone wrote, not everyone were as intelligent as we were. Even the dumbest person in modern day society is still smarter.
Yeah, it would be a genius.
That reminds me of the whole concept of, like how people say like, oh, the end of the world is happening this year. And then there's a lot of people who say it's not really like destruction of everything, but more or less that the poles will flip and that everything that runs on electricity right now will no longer work because the electric currency is no longer the same as it was previously. So, like, what if the poles flipped and we were to actually enter another dark age nowadays?
That sounds like a Y2K type theory. That sounds like a Y2K type thing. I think there's going to be contingencies in place if that does happen. I don't think we're just going to, I don't think it's just going to abruptly happen and we're just going to be without power. We're not going to know what to do. I don't think that'll ever happen.
Well, I mean, just think of the solar flares. I mean, if there's a large enough solar flare from space that hits Earth in the atmosphere, it is possible for it to shut off electricity like that. I mean, if we lose, let's just say satellites, everything is ran on these satellites. If something were to happen to the satellites, the information loss alone right there would be, huge. So, I mean, it's definitely possible. But I think the whole, back to Atlantis, like, the plane thing and everything, that's a pretty cool theory. I mean, they say that eventually California is going to split off the West Coast. You ever hear about that? So it's
because of the fault lines? The fault lines
exactly.
And stuff?
Yeah. They say eventually it's going to split off. So what? California is now its own little island? I'm sure they would love that, actually.
They probably would. They probably have a better chance of getting statehood or, independence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. All that stuff's cool. I'd like to just take it.
Country of California.
Oh my god. I mean, they're still gonna be part of the U.S. I don't think they're gonna.
Obviously.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I mean, there was a guy that wants to break California into, I think it's either 5 or 6 separate states because the economies of California are so vastly different that for them to have to operate under the same rule sets is kind of like you've got Silicon Valley and then you've got San Francisco or the north that's got all the wineries and stuff like that. There's all these different things going on in California, and I guess
there's rich areas, there's poor areas, there's technology areas, there's beach areas. There's so much going on over there.
Yeah, you look at populations of Los Angeles and stuff like that, and the numbers they have alone are bigger than a lot of major regions in the middle of America.
Absolutely.
I think that's something we should think about across the board. That's another thing that bothers me is the amount of. I don't get why states aren't uniform, I guess. It doesn't make sense. It feels like an old system to me, how the states all have different rules and regulations depending on what they feel is best. Like, I get it. I just don't know. I don't know if it's practical. I think people cling to the whole sense of freedom and the right to, make local decisions.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it across the board that states should lose all rights. I just think there should be some level of uniformity in terms of
Well, I mean, as far as what you're talking about with that, in regards to what things, what things when you go from state to state bother you that you feel like shouldn't be that way?
I honestly don't know. What do you mean? I started that thought and then I realized halfway through that I didn't really know where I was going to go with that one.
The way I look at it is stuff like that. it allows democracy to kind of have separate breeding grounds, because if you have like certain states that are more forward, you look at Colorado and how they've legalized marijuana, and if it took the entire United States to do something like that, it would literally never happen. But
That's
if
true.
Colorado does it and Washington does it, and then another state sees, hey, you know what, we have really low tax income, let's increase that by legalizing this, it kind of gets everybody to do the same thing. As far as abortion, it's the same way, and any sort of state-to-state.
Just think about like prohibition of alcohol when that whole thing started and ended, and how kind of each state kind of did their own thing, and then eventually it was just like, all right, all of America, and then eventually it was brought back, things like that. It's just, I definitely think it's better that each state can kind of go their own way in a sense. Like you said, Colorado is making strides to do their own thing, and eventually other states are going to follow on, and then once a majority of the states have done it, it will just become normal, and then it eventually just be, everywhere you go. Right. It doesn't matter.
But with the example of the prohibition, that we still went the route of the war on drugs. I don't get it. I don't understand it. The prohibition proved that people are going to do what they want to do. The only difference was that alcohol was already, it was way more of a social thing than weed or anything else will ever be. It was the foundation of so many things in terms of any sort of...
Well, I mean, alcohol has been around forever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, like every single...
the custom way to celebrate.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. It was the staple of any adult-based celebratory event, was everyone was going to have alcohol. Like, that was just... So taking that away caused an issue, but, like, you can't legislate morality, and you can't...
He's freaking out.
God.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think that you're right about that. But the 70s and 80s were a different time, You have things coming in, and people are experimenting with drugs. They're available to people. People are talking about them in public, dialogues and things. And the government felt the need to step in and kind of crush that sort of behavior. And it's been a massive failure. It was a horrible idea.
I agree. And it's and you got all these people in prison that are just, why? It makes no sense.
They're taking up space, and we pay for them.
They weren't even people that were dealing. I understand that they were like maybe even someone that was like a high profile, but like, dude, if you're getting...
They're just old ways,
dude,
that have been set in history that we're eventually getting over. Things like same-sex marriage, things like that we find as the newer generations to be ridiculous, but these things have been around for, much longer than, we even realize. These have been set in stone for literally years. So the fact that we're breaking these grounds, and like I said, the newer generations are realizing that these old ways just aren't realistic anymore. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And in the world we live in today, it's better for all humans to be equal and as one, and than for everybody to be versing each other, type of thing. I mean, that's how I feel in a sense. So it's
I don't think we're all going to
eventually get pushed. I mean, not like no one's even saying that. I mean, it's more or less just the freedom. Everyone should have the freedom, the same freedoms. I'm saying. Yeah. What are you talking about?
Well, you said equalness is one. That was a very socialist, communist comment. So I was just curious where you were going with that. But you just meant equality across the board.
No. I'm not saying someone picks my job for me and pays me 3 bags of rice and a quarter.
I was just
if two individuals want to come together to be legally wed, their gender should be irrelevant.
Yeah,
exactly.
So equal in that manner, legally equal.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Exactly.
I 100% agree. There was something I was going to say too, and I lost it. It was around weed. I don't know what to think about it.
Well, all I gotta say is, I mean, if you look at how much has been done in the past, 50 to 100 years, I mean, in the next 50 to 100 years, all of these old ways, that were set, and even new ideas there's gonna be so many of them, things are just gonna be completely different. I mean, look how much changes in a year of your life,
Yeah.
Just with everything that you do, even like, your daily habits, things like that, what you watch, what you eat, everything changes in a year. So in the next 50 years, I mean, where technology is, where people are, it's going to be completely different at that point.
I agree.
I agree.
It's a natural progression.
So, I think a lot of this too, though, you have to keep in mind that when America was settled initially, like the Puritans that came over had their specific beliefs about things. A lot of the the core beliefs they have about society have permeated throughout all of culture over the years. And I think that the internet has allowed the minority voice to kind of really get their opinion out there in a way that people start to question these things. Why do we have these puritanical beliefs, and where do they come from, and do they have anything to do with our culture as Americans?
I think it's more or less people who normally wouldn't speak up now feel like they can speak up because they don't have to do it directly in person. They can kind of just go, hey, this is my idea, and I feel safer because I'm now behind this screen. You don't know exactly who I am, but I'm still presenting my idea, and it gets people thinking. And then once that idea gets passed around enough, that's when it becomes a reality. Exactly. It's the people who initially were never, because it was originally ran by a group of men or women who told everybody else basically what to do in a sense. They made the rules and everything else, and most people followed along. Now everyone can kind of give their ideas or their opinions, and now it's kind of like, again, back to the word equal, you're able to create an idea based off of everybody's opinions. So
there's more of a collaboration to it.
Exactly. More of a team effort, you could say.
Yeah. I mean, I agree.
I mean, that's basically what I have to say on that. But I guess the other thing I was reading about the other day was, you guys ever hear of AirBNB? Basically, it's a... Go ahead,
it's like a rental place for vacations, basically. If you've got like an extra room in your house, or if you've got just a home that's empty or something, you can rent it out to people, right?
Well, it's basically like people are renting out. I don't think it's a room. I guess maybe you could probably do rooms, but from what I saw, it was more or less just like apartments or houses. So say you're like, oh, I want to go to Paris. Instead of actually going and getting like, a room at, say, the Hilton or something like that, or wherever you decide to stay in a hostel. And basically, instead of staying in a hostel or a hotel, you now have a middle option where you can actually rent someone's apartment or, say, hotel. Mm-hmm. So I was actually looking at, like, flats, basically, right near the Eiffel Tower in France. And it was like $107 a night or something like that. But you basically, and you have your own kitchen. It's like your own little apartment.
You, but before you continue, is this like a website that's housing this, or what's this platform?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Continue. Yeah, it's basically like an Expedia or like one of those type of things, but it's basically instead you go on, if you have a nice place, and you list it, and you can make money basically renting your place. And they're doing it like, all over the place, so you can travel around and basically stay in these people's crazy houses that you never normally be able to stay in. I'd much rather stay in someone's like cool flat or something, in some crazy country than just to go stay at a hotel in a room next to, 50 really other people on my floor. Exactly, it really is. But if you have like your own little room, it's sweet.
I think most people want to stay in a house because it gives you that homey feeling, which is probably the most important part of when you travel. I think the only people that really like the hotels are the people that are already from the country, because then it's more that vacation atmosphere. Like, you don't need to have that sense of comfort because you're already used to your surroundings.
And not only that, but I think you could probably fit more people. You stay in someone's house, you could bring more people with you. You can make it like a family vacation versus, all right, family vacation, we now need to rent 10 rooms at $100 a night. Yeah. Now you need to account for all this money. You can just rent a house, and you all kind of just pile in. I saw some really nice houses like in LA, things like that.
Well, that was my point.
It was really cool.
Like, I take us, for example. Like, if we were going to get a hotel in Philly or AC or whatever, like, it's nothing to us. We're from the area. Why would we ever rent a house if we were going down to, like, AC? Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah,
but if you're coming from Europe,
we don't need to get comfortable.
If you're coming from Europe, it'd be like, man, I don't want to go into like this huge hotel where maybe I'm not comfortable with the language, and maybe you can establish a relationship with the person that you're running from beforehand. So I do like that. I think that's really cool. I've never reading about.
You're running from? Are they coming here to escape?
No, renting. Sorry.
Oh, I think you said running.
But yeah, Airbnb's been around for a little while. The reason why I'd heard about them recently was because they're coming after the renters. Like, it basically used to be a free-for-all, almost like anything you buy or deal with on Craigslist, where it's just out there. But now, because Airbnb has become so popular, and exactly, they want like special taxes for these people and like health regulations and things like that, because they're in essence operating a hotel.
I think they should, in a sense. I think they should probably give the website a percentage, and at the same time, the website should be able to provide some sort of security to these people coming to stay in their home.
All costs money,
well,
man.
The website's doing that already. I'm talking about more along the lines of like the government, as far as like taxes are concerned. You're not just letting somebody stay on your couch. You're actually operating a bed and breakfast, which is what B&B stands for.
You're basically paying taxes.
So why is the government
paying taxes on the money you make?
Why is the government liable for your venture? Why do they have to help support?
Because it's income. It's
income. Government has a piece of any income you make, basically.
So the government wants the piece. I thought you were saying the people want money from the government. They want to be subsidized for running.
No.
I was going to say, what the hell?
The government wants to be paid for their income, for the income that those people are earning on their rentals.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and basically, the person who helped get it started. The person who helped get it started was actually Ashton Kutcher. He's the one that actually put a lot of money into making this big, basically. I definitely think it'll blow up more once more people realize that it actually exists. Because like I said, I never even heard of it till the other day, but it's been around for a while. Like, I think it's it's a hidden gem, basically.
If Ashton
Kutcher, you can come on.
Yeah. Talk about it.
Promote AirBNB.
He does a lot of like venture capital. There's a lot of people that do like just venture investing. They've made their money.
Why wouldn't? Like, that's the thing.
Actually,
why would you not?
I actually saw my idea was taken, which I was pretty sad about. Lady Gaga did it. She originally had tried to make basically a website where it was like a Facebook, but only for celebrities. And apparently that didn't work out so well. So then she changed it, and now it's basically like a website where you can make your own social media. 1 second.
I mean, that's basically like, that's what Twitter's for, you know? This guy's got somebody coming to the door. What the fuck?
I don't know, but Ace
unbelievable.
Is the biggest, loudest asshole, the dog.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
right.
that's what Twitter's for. Twitter is so you can keep track of celebrities. Why would a celebrity social network matter? That's why you have managers and stuff.
Well, basically, they change it into where you can go on and you can make your own social website to make your own social experience. I mean, I didn't really go on there to make. I don't really want to make Dan Book or anything like that. You know, I don't care enough.
Yeah,
but I thought that was. I was upset to see that my celebrity Facebook idea didn't work. Yeah.
So wait, what's it offered? What's it offered in the Facebook
Armando
offer already?
Well, it's basically just so like you could go on and celebrities could have like. Kind of like we do. They could post like funny pictures or stuff to their other celebrity friends, and it wouldn't be like, oh my god, from their fans. Exactly.
I think that's what the business model comes down to. You can't get on here, but we can get on here. Like the black Amex cards.
Yep.
There's like no.
If you think about it, Facebook when it originally came out, you could only access Facebook originally when it came out when you had a college email address. So I remember when Facebook first came out, I wasn't enrolled in college yet, or I hadn't got my email from my college yet, and other people had. So they already had this Facebook, and I didn't. I was like, what is going on here? But then eventually they opened it up, and now anybody can sign up for Facebook. It doesn't matter. But I'm saying originally it was just for college students and nothing else.
Yeah, but that wasn't because they wanted to be exclusive. That was due to network infrastructure design. They simply. They had the design.
I'm not saying they were. I'm just saying it was exclusive in a sense at first, and now look at where it is now.
I think I think it had that effect. I think it had that effect of this is for college students, and because I remember when I first got my Facebook, and it was about like meeting people at your school, and like there was a big push
exactly what it was for.
And focus around college in the way that like MySpace was not like that. It was just like everybody's fucking adding everybody, and we're all friends, and
exactly.
You know, who's got the
like
most
you actually had to have a specific college email address to do it. Yeah, my top 8. I forgot about that. Yeah, MySpace.
You remember
Tom,
that shit?
Wherever you are nowadays, Tom.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well.
Top 8. I got removed from your top 8. I see how it is.
Yeah, that used to be like an argument back in the MySpace days.
I never did the MySpace. It was before my time.
No, never.
I mean, it was
before my time.
You're a baby. You're a baby.
Facebook was already becoming popular by like my freshman year of high school. My freshman year. So
when did you graduate? 07?
09.
09. Jesus Christ, dude. Oh my God.
Fans now you know. Subscribers now you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man. I went to a happy hour the other day, and like everyone was like 30 plus, and people straight thought I was like 29. I was like, I am not that age. I was like,
I'm not who you think I am.
No one ever gets.
That just means you didn't fuck up at any point.
I was.
You act like an asshole. That's all.
I always act like an asshole, DJ. That's my go-to.
You act like a mature asshole.
I'm almost positive.
And a mature asshole.
I definitely made a Holocaust joke at that happy hour. Like, it definitely. The what you see here is transcended across.
The signature Brian.
It's
Holocaust joke.
It's how I gauge people. It's how I gauge whether or not we're gonna be friends. If you don't laugh, we're not gonna be friends. I'm sure most people don't care. It helps me.
I heard that. I heard that HBO is offering their app, their HBO Go app, sometime next year as a standalone item, which I think is a great idea.
I thought they already did.
So you don't need a cable service? You just can get the app?
No, you can download the app and then pay a monthly fee for it.
Called like a season pass where you can just buy the one show and you can watch it for the season. Don't they offer something like that already?
You probably need cable already.
Okay.
They're just going to Netflix.
Okay, so then basically, it would be like Netflix, yeah, basically. HBO Go is basically Netflix.
No, the thing is,
HBO's version.
Okay, so what I'm interested in is I don't know how HBO obtains the rights that they do for the movies and whatnot that they have.
No, this is for their TV shows.
So this is only for the TV shows, because right now HBO Go still provides movies that they have for free, which are much different.
I think it'll be everything. They're going to do everything.
Because the
focus here is Game of Thrones. The focus here is True Detective. That's the reason why people want these HBO apps. It's not so they can watch like a fucking 30-year-old movie.
Right. No, I know.
Exactly.
Well,
for sure. HBO is all about the TV shows. There's so many good ones.
Well, that's why Netflix is going the route that they're going of the original series. And I think HBO Go saw that the success of Orange is the New Black, the success of House of Cards, the success of these shows that originated only on that platform. But another thing that Netflix ran into, the reason why I asked about the older movies and titles, is Netflix wants to provide more content. They're blocked from the major companies, though. Viacom's a big one. Right. They own like Comedy Central and MTV and I think a few other networks. Like the layers above these networks, they won't allow Netflix to broadcast it because the differences with HBO is obviously they have way more shows that are HBO originals. Sopranos, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Boardwalk Empire, Silicon Valley's picking up. What do they got? True Blood.
I like Silicon Valley. I was really happy with that show.
I do too. I'm interested to see where they're going. I think they finally captured the nerdy stereotype, but actually portrayed it in a way that is fairly realistic.
Not offensive, per se.
It's real.
It's realistic,
real.
Not offensive or dumb. It's not just like that over, like, big glasses nerd, like, pants up to here with the belt type of thing. Like, you know. They're just regular people. They're just awkward. It's just making, like, the awkwardness there getting down.
And not all of them are necessarily awkward, per se. Some of them are just extremely intelligent. Like the one guy with the longer hair, he's not super awkward. He's just a really introverted, smart guy. He's not necessarily, I think.
Yeah, and he's like anti-government and all this stuff.
Yeah, I think people always have this perception. If you were a nerd, you liked Lord of the Rings, you dressed up, you had no friends, and you played Dungeons and Dragons. Like that's been the nerd stereotype.
And you LARPed. I want to go LARPing.
Like that's
I've never LARPed before.
And now everyone, the thing that pisses me off now.
I would do that.
I would never do it. Everyone nowadays wants to call themselves a nerd. Like, it's so annoying. Like, dude, you know nothing. You only know the Marvel heroes that are in the movies. You don't know shit about shit. And everyone's like, oh my god, I watch TV all day. I'm such a nerd. No, you just watched a lot of TV. You're not a nerd. You just didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
Going back, how do you guys feel about the whole Vince Vaughn, Colin Farrell, True Detective season 2? Did they ever pick the female lead that they were going to do? Didn't they say they were going to pick a female?
I didn't read.
I don't know.
No, I don't know.
But I don't know how I feel entirely about Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn has
I
had
thought the same thing, but
either.
look what they did with Matthew McConaughey. I mean, I was never see him in that role per se like that.
He still did
he
other
was
things
so
that were
good.
decent.
Matthew
That's true, the
McConaughey.
lawyer.
Detective. He still did things that were decent.
Matthew McConaughey was
That's
already
true.
transitioning to that type of actor prior to True Detective. Now the thing
Right.
that's interesting about
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn is Vince Vaughn's earlier work was more serious. He was a more serious actor,
Yes.
but he wasn't well known for his serious acting. But I mean,
He wasn't good.
Well, that's the other thing. He just wasn't. It didn't ever feel
good
real.
as a serious actor.
No,
That was his starting. He started with that, and then he eventually grew, and then he grew into comedy basically and realized he was better at that. But I think now that he's had the time to develop as an actor over so many years at this point, I think he could probably. I think he's going to surprise us because I think he's supposed to be like the drug lord or something in the movie or in the show now. Like he's supposed to be like the top guy.
He's supposed
I
to
think
be
it'll
the
be
villain.
interesting to see how they do it.
He's definitely the antagonist of the show. It'll be interesting because I mean he may have had a really good mentor. I mean you got to look at people like Bryan Cranston, right? Like Bryan Cranston was a serious actor and he did things with the X-Files.
Yeah.
And the guy who directed the X-Files episode is
He was
actually
on Seinfeld.
Yeah, and the guy who directed X-Files
Malcolm in
is
the Middle?
actually who picked him up for Breaking Bad. But look at him from Malcolm in the Middle. Hal is one of the most ridiculous, dumb characters in TV history, probably. Like he's just his whole character,
and
Goofy dad. Yeah.
everything about him, and then you
he
look
fit
at
him perfect.
and then
He did. He did great at that show.
and then he played another dad role, right? He starts off Breaking Bad. He's yet another dad, right? And you're like, well, shit, what route is this gonna go? And I mean, I've only seen like 4 seasons of the show, but it's enough to see that it was a complete transformation. But like,
You should watch the rest of it. It's great. It's really good.
You know what it is? It's one of those shows that it's I can't say that
It's
a bad
dark in a sense.
I can't say it's a bad show. It's got so much detail and it requires your full focus. But I just don't know. It never drew me in like to the point where like I was watching it on Netflix. I was watching repeat episodes and I blew through like 3 seasons. But like take a show like Game of Thrones that already tailors to my interest. Like I'm easily like I love Lord of the Rings. I'm more into fantasy. Like Game of Thrones, I watched all the content in one weekend. I watched it in one weekend. I am the stereotypical nerd. I understand that. I fucking love all those things. And Breaking Bad.
So you don't like crystal meth?
It has great acting. It has everything you would want from a great show. It's just the core theme of the show. I don't know. Maybe I need to keep watching. Maybe I watched too much initially. It didn't keep me hooked. It didn't make me want to keep going back.
Yeah.
I watched it, and it was good. I understand why people love it though. It's got. The thing is, I think that people love about Breaking Bad is if you're just a fan of good TV, it has some of the best acting and writing, like period.
Yeah.
In drama.
Yeah, and there's art direction to it. They don't. It's not a dumb story. Like the same with True Detective. It was a beautiful show to
True
watch.
Detective.
Yeah.
Just feast your eyes. It's really pretty.
I would
I
watch
feel
True
bad
Detective.
for the people who didn't get past the first 2 episodes because it really took about 3 episodes to fully indulge yourself into the show. But for those people that quit like after 2 episodes, like it's kind of boring. Like they really missed out because
Maybe
that
that's
show
me
was
with
just
Breaking
amazing.
Bad. Maybe I gotta wait because I'm just getting to the part now on Breaking Bad where what's his name gets introduced. The guy who owns like the chicken. I know he's a big player. He owns like the chicken.
Oh, Gus.
Gus.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I know
No spoilers.
But yeah.
I only watched like half the
his arc
first
is
season
great.
and I stopped.
I know.
His arc is great.
I know he's
Gus
like a big.
is really awesome.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. True Detective, I would honestly watch that as if it was an 8-hour movie. Like I would watch it start to finish. I loved everything about it.
Yeah.
I think the ending was a bit. It's like anything that ends, I guess nowadays. I didn't like it. It just seemed forced.
Yeah.
It seemed really.
It was anticlimactic. I expected so much more.
It was anticlimactic. Like you get like the whole part where he's kind of going through the maze. I thought that was really cool, but I feel like they could have done more with that.
You know
like
what
when
I
you
was...
started seeing like space and stuff, that I think they could have definitely did more with that whole scene. It was just it was over too quick. I feel.
I think the biggest part for me was that guy that they introduced was so cool. Like he was doing crazy like sophisticated voices, and then he was doing like weird baby voices. Like that guy just seemed actually
he's a great actor.
Insane. And then they kind of like showed him, and then it just ended. Like it was just like I would have loved some sort of crazy dialect where like maybe he was holding him or just whispering like insane things into his ear, like and then maybe like revealing more insane shit. Like They could have went somewhere
more
with it.
of why he did it type of thing. Like why he actually like explained like why he was doing it.
And why are all these people following him?
That would have been cool.
How did he have this level of power? Like, what's his whole story? Like, maybe they're gonna go back to it because he's just this guy that everybody like feared.
Yeah, the second season is completely different than the first season.
Yeah, but maybe there's gonna be something in season 5.
It's like
they
an
go
anthology,
back to or something.
No, it's like American
it's all
Horror Story,
separate.
where each season is self-contained.
Has a different
They're
theme.
all separate. Yeah,
Oh, I know.
An anthology.
I know they're saying that right now, but will it be interesting to see if they ever do like the True Detective one, like the. You know what I mean? I know they're all separate stories, but maybe they do a season that's his.
Like Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Where you do like a part 2 or something.
Yeah, because maybe they do 5 seasons, right? And season 1 still is the fan favorite, right? It's still the number one thing. Yeah. So then they end up just say, fuck it, let's just do, an expansion of that story because people want to know X, Y, and Z about it. True Detective, though, is I'm really, 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 really excited to see what season 2 brings to the table and if it brings the same level of success because people have True Detective like here, right? And season 2 needs to be.
It's up there.
It needs to be.
It's up there
equal,
with The Wire and stuff.
It needs to be equal or slightly under for people to watch season 3. I think if it goes down to here, people may try season 3.
I don't think so, because a lot of people say that with The Wire, like season 2 is like the least favorite season, whatever. But then the rest of the show was. Magic, and everybody loves the show, and it's everybody's favorite show. You can have an okay season, and people are still going to watch. I think the show is shot well enough, and it's like PJ said, it's pretty enough where people will continue to watch it. Again, you're going to have those people that watch the first 2 episodes and go, oh, this is boring, and not watch it, and then they're going to be the ones that miss out.
It is an anthology, too, so that does give it an advantage. If one season bombs, it's not like that story matters, because it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
if the writing's solid, if you can just chalk it up to Vince Vaughn was terrible, so this season was bad. It gives them an excuse to do season 3 and have it still. But
how many bad seasons can you have before HBO says, you guys can't recreate it?
I agree.
It all depends on the show. Yeah. What I like that American Horror Story actually does is not only do they change the theme each season, but they keep the same cast, but they change their roles around, which I think is kind of cool. So you see these familiar people, but then they're like, oh wait, now they're this type of person.
See, I
think that's kind of cool.
I don't like it.
No? Why?
I'm not a big fan of that show. I really don't. I don't like that show.
Have you watched the new season?
No, I haven't.
The new season is much better than last season. I will say it right off the bat. There's only 2 episodes right now. You can watch it. I would suggest. It's the first episode alone is better than all of last season.
I've seen bits of season 1, bits of season 2, and bits of season 3, and it all chops up to the fact that I just don't like the directing style. I don't like the writing. I don't like. I don't.
That's how I feel about it.
And I don't like the rehash characters. I like to get tied to characters, and I associate actors with characters. And when I see that same actor in the same show doing a different thing, I always think back to what they were, weird. And I'm just like, I'm like, I liked her better as the witch, or I liked her better as, when she was the crazy hospital nurse. Or like, it doesn't allow you to just look at what that person's bringing in. It's like the unique actors that come in, like just look at them.
To get lost in it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't, for some reason I don't feel that way because I think because the themes are so different. So they changed the roles of the characters, but what they did was they kind of have them doing the same thing. So there's the older woman on the show, and I can't remember her name, but she's always kind of like the woman in charge type of thing. She's always like, the highest witch or whatever it is. But now in the new season, she runs the freak show. So last season she was the highest witch, and she did her thing there. And now she's the highest person on the freak show. I can't think of it, honestly. Yeah. But yeah, so they changed the roles around, but they kind of do it. I mean, I know what you mean, because it's like, oh, that's, there's Pam. If you see Pam from The Office and you saw her in another show, you would immediately associate with her original role or what her favorite role was that you played.
I just didn't like the style of the show. I don't know. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't really creep me out. It just seems it just seems like this show that tries to force.
It's a lighter horror.
It tries to force these
really. It's very light. It's too light for me.
Yeah.
It's light horror because it's on FX. Basically,
here's the thing.
I wanted something actually creepy, and it's not creepy at all. It's just kind of goofy.
I get scared easily,
it's
right?
Not creepy.
I have a pretty active imagination, so when I see something that's conceptually scary, I run with it, and that's what freaks me out, is more myself. There's just isn't anything that I see, like, there's some stuff that's grotesque or weird. There's a lot of weird stuff, and I don't like, I didn't like Donnie Darko. I know a lot of people like Donnie Darko. To me, Donnie Darko was just weird.
Sorry.
It was just strange. I don't like things that are just strange to be strange. Like, we're just gonna be like completely random and confuse you.
Yeah.
And have it really serve no purpose. Like, I also just don't like things.
I felt like it was overly complex. Donnie Darko was way too complex. It did not need to be nearly as complex as it was to get the same point across.
Yeah.
You have to watch it like a million times to really get all the little things that they added into it.
It's not that good to watch it a million times.
I've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
So to each their own.
I'm going to see Birdman this weekend.
What's that?
Who?
Explain it.
Birdman. It's a movie that's coming out with Michael Keaton in it, and he's playing an actor that played a character called Birdman, very similar to Batman, and he's like washed up, and like he's gonna come back and do a sequel, but he like slowly starts losing his mind, and like he's becoming like all over again like one of the most famous people in the world, and he's got to deal with that and his like mental issues, and like it's like a dark comedy. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I saw someone else saying that they were going to see that. That definitely sounds interesting. Another one I wanted.
I was just going to say, I got a 94% Rotten Tomatoes. That's fucking good.
Wow.
What, Birdman?
Yeah. It's got Emma Stone in it. I like Emma Stone. Oh, Michael Keaton, too. Wow, holy shit. Ed Norton.
He's playing basically himself. It's really funny.
That's interesting.
There's that, and then there's the movie about Stephen Hawking that's coming out that I think are two movies I'm really excited about.
I wanted to see the Ben Affleck movie.
Gone Girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, the Stephen Hawking movie, though, I didn't hear anything about that. What's that, like, about his life?
I saw the previews for that.
It's called The Theory of Everything. And it's basically about his life, and there's an actor that basically plays him as he's younger, and he's like learning to develop all of the theories that he has, and then him getting his disease and like walking with a cane for a while, and then him in the wheelchair with the computer, and like it seems pretty interesting.
I think I like those movies, but at the same time those movies are anticlimactic for me because you already know the story arc, right? Maybe you're getting more insight on
biopics.
You're getting I just mean in terms of like I don't know if that's the appropriate term.
Like portraying a character.
I don't like
kind of like the Steve Jobs movie.
Biography movies.
Yeah, I don't like them just because if you're already that interested.
Jobs was terrible. Jobs was just a bad movie.
Because Jobs is a terrible person, so it makes sense that his movie was terrible.
The film itself was bad. The story wasn't told properly, and if you ever saw Pirates of Silicon Valley, it came out in like the 90s with some guy that was on ER and somebody else. But anyway, it's about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, and it's like made for TV. It was excellent. It was really good. They told the story really well. Everything seemed pretty accurate, but Jobs was terrible. Jobs was really bad.
Well, I imagine I didn't see the movie, but did they sensationalize who Steve Jobs actually was as a person? Like,
right.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah. Cult of personality.
Steve Jobs, for what he did from a business standpoint, you can't take away from the guy. On a personal level, I have zero respect for him. I don't want to go too into that because we're kind of wrapping it up, and I can write it off about that. But
that's true.
Anybody who's watching knows about your feelings towards Apple.
No, and the reason I have the negative feelings towards Apple is because of Steve Jobs. Like, I'm sorry, Steve Wozniak.
We just said we weren't going to get.
I had to say this. Steve Wozniak is one of the nicest, most brilliant people in the computer industry, and Jobs fucked him over willingly multiple times. When they worked for Atari, they were given a bonus for meeting a deadline ahead of time.
Yeah, I heard about this.
But Jobs didn't tell Wozniak, and he took all the money. And that was back when they were both struggling for money. So that'd be like if all three of us right now we decided to put money into the podcast, and PJ like developed all his shit because PJ is doing more of the layout stuff and the uploading part and really the effort. Let's be honest. PJ is the one who's putting in the majority of the effort. We're just kind of showing up. But I end up having somebody that's my friend who talks to me, and I'm like, well, fuck PJ. This is my that's and that's what people do. That's what
you just take your check.
I mean, Zuckerberg did it to an extent, but not really. Zuckerberg, I don't blame Zuckerberg. People got hard on him because he heard about an idea. I'm sorry, if you don't act on an idea, where Zuckerberg fucked up though was when he screwed over the people that helped him get to the platform that he was at. But when, like the two girls that tried suing him because they technically had the idea for Facebook, ideas are worth shit. No one's gonna.
Who are you talking about? The guys, the twins?
Yeah. People who think that they're entitled to ideas.
The Winklevoss?
It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
You know
what your ideas are worth? Jack shit.
If you don't execute, then it doesn't mean anything. Right. Yeah, you have to execute. At least something. At least something small that you can...
Yeah, I hate Steve Jobs. And he also had a daughter that he denied her existence for like 17 years of her life, and then he made money and he just threw money at her.
Lisa?
Like, he did a lot of terrible things. And people think he's just this brilliant, sweet man who died of cancer.
They just like their iPhones. People just like their iPads and their iPhones and stuff.
Oh, man.
Where are we time-wise?
We're way over an hour. Probably like an hour 15 at this point. I checked it a bit ago.
We should probably wrap up soon, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think we should wrap up. I mean, we got a lot of subscribers after this one, hopefully.
I do want to say, people who are watching or are still watching at this point, next week we are going to be doing a Halloween-themed based episode. We're going to be doing more of a horror. We don't know the specifics, but it's going to be centered around the festivities.
Around Halloween.
Around Halloween. Things related to Halloween. Maybe we'll eat some candy. Yep. Maybe we even have costumes on. You never know.
Like that.
You never know.
You have too much of a friendly face to ever be scary. Like, you tried, and you still look like the nicest person I've ever seen.
Like that.
So, we hope everybody enjoyed the episode today. Episode 4.
Point 1.
Please comment. Please subscribe.
Please comment. Please subscribe. Please like. Please like our likes. Please like each comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to see. Again, next week is Halloween themed, things around that. So if you're interested in things relating to the holiday and maybe scary stories or things of that nature, you might want to, or you definitely actually want to tune in to that episode as well.
Definitely. There's no mic.
Definitely.
You gotta show up.
Definitely.
Totes.
You watch this episode, you watch next. You
hashtag
watch
it. Hashtag totes. Avi.
Yeah, hashtag. Ba 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 ba. Hashtag.
Alright. Let's wrap up.
Hashtag.
Deuces.
Alright. Later, guys. Goodbye.
See you, fam.